Hello friends, welcome to Study Algorithms, a place where I simplify some of the basic programming concepts for you with some really easy to understand examples. Today, we would be looking at a programming question on HackerRank. The question we would be solving today is left rotation. Before I begin this video, I want to let you know that this is a very popular question that a lot of companies ask during their initial rounds. That is because it can be solved in a multiple number of ways and it gives the interviewer an idea about your thinking process. So while solving this problem, I would recommend you to keep thinking of different ways how you can go about solving it. In fact, when I interviewed for Google 4 years back, this was the question that I got in the first round. So what I will do today is, first, I'm gonna explain you the problem statement and show you some sample test cases. Next, we will try to solve it using a brute force method and see why it is not feasible. Going forward, I will show you two more ways to solve this problem and we will do a dry run of the code as well. So without further ado, let's get started. The problem states that given an array of integers and a value k, you need to rotate this array k times and find me the resultant output array. To give you an idea about the rotation, you can think of the array to be in kind of a conveyor belt and you are rotating this array one by one. You will understand it more in a bit when we go over some sample test cases. So let's start with it. To understand this example, let us take up two test cases. In my test case 1, I have an array of 7 elements and the value of k is 2. So when I have to rotate this array by 2 times, let us see how it would look. Let me just copy the array really quickly. So now what we have to do is we have to rotate this array in the left direction 2 times. How you can think about rotation is you can assume this array to be on an infinitely long conveyor belt and this array is rotating, right? So when you have to rotate it by one step, it would rotate something like, so now you rotated it by one time, but you have to rotate it by 2 times. So a second rotation would look like, and hence after 2 rotations, this should be your answer. If you see, this array has rotated by 2 times. What happens when the value of k is 4? Let me quickly copy this array one more time. Now let us start rotating it one by one. Rotating it once, rotating it second time, a third time, and then one more time. Hence, after 4 rotations, your array looks like this. And this should be your answer. Now, there is one more interesting aspect about this problem. In test case number 1, my array size was 7 and the values of k were 2 and 4. What happens in a case when my array size is just 4 and I try to rotate it 6 times? Do you remember I told you that you can assume the array to be on a kind of an infinite conveyor belt? So what would happen is if you have completed your rotation 4 times, the array would look the same. And then you can proceed ahead to perform 2 more rotations. How does it look visually? Let me show you that. So rotating it one time, then rotating it second time, rotating it third time, then rotating it fourth time. So if the length of array is x and you rotate it x times, you would get the same array, right? This seems logical too. But in this case, the value of k is 6. Hence, we need to perform 2 more rotations. Rotating it a fifth time, and then rotating it one last time. So for our test case number 2, this should be your answer. Now let us see how we can go about solving this problem. As always, we will first try to find a brute force solution to the problem. That is because if a brute force solution exists, it means that the problem can be solved. Check the link in the description below to know more about brute force algorithmic paradigms. So how do you think a brute force solution to this problem would look like? A brute force solution to this problem would mean that you want to solve this problem by any hook or crook. So one way to solve this problem would be to actually rotate the array one by one. So what you can do is you can keep the first element aside and copy all the elements one by one to their previous positions. So what you will do is you will copy 2 over here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here, 6 here, and then 7 here. And then your array will look like, once you are done moving all the elements, just take up the element that you had extracted and put it over here. So you were able to perform one rotation. Similarly, now you can perform the rotation for the second time. So what you will do is you will keep the number 2 aside and then once again copy all of the elements one by one position to the left. So 3 comes here, 4 here, 5 here, and then copy 2 at the very end. Now you see, you have been able to rotate this array 2 times. Going by this idea, you can follow this approach one more time and rotate the array. And you will obviously reach your answer. Your array would have been rotated 3 times. But do you see the problem in this approach? If your array was very large, like say 1000 or say 10,000, and the value of k is also quite large, if your value of k is 560, then you would be copying all the elements so many times. This would result in a very high time complexity and your program would run very slow. So we need to find an efficient way to solve this problem. An efficient way to solve this problem would be to think that if the value of k is 3, do you actually need to rotate the array 3 times? Since you're writing a program, you can take advantage of the fact and rotate the array 3 times all at once. So think like this. If you're rotating the array 3 times, the elements that come at the first 3 positions, they will move towards the end and all of the elements will be shifted towards the left, right? So we will try to take advantage of this fact to solve this problem. So what you can do is you can create a temp array that has the size of k. And then you copy the first k elements to your temp array. So your temp array would now look like, so now you know for a fact that you have preserved these values somewhere, right? What you're remaining with is you need to shift the rest of the values towards the left. So all of these values should come over here, right? So how you can go about doing that is just copy each of the values starting from 4, 3 positions to the left. So what you will do is you will start copying all of these values. Once these values have been copied down, your array would start to look something like, if you look at this array, you can see that, okay, the left part of the array has been solved. You have shifted the values from right towards the left. But you can see that this part is still remaining. You still need to fix this part. This is where your temp array comes in. So in your next step, what you would be simply doing is you would simply copy over these values to these positions. Once this is done, your array would result into the final answer, and that would be, so this is your answer. If you quickly look at the code of this array, you can see that we are initializing a temp array over here. Then we first store the k elements in a temp array. Next, we shift the rest of the array towards the left, and then we store back the remaining k elements in our original array. So this method should give you the answer. Now there is one more method to solve this problem, and it involves some kind of a number theory. But just stay with me, it's very easy to follow. The previous method that we used was an optimization of the brute force approach. But in a case your interviewer is asking you for more solutions, this is certainly a method you can come up with. So what you do over here is, let us assume that I have a function reverse that takes in an array and it reverses it from a start position to an end position. So that function would look something like, now just assume that this function exists. We are not going into the implementation of this function, just so you can understand the problem first. So this function takes in an array, takes a start position and the end position, and reverses all the elements in between. So what I would be doing here is, in my first step, I reverse all of the numbers in the array. So now my array would look something like, so you see now my array is completely reversed from the first position to the last position. For my step number 2, what I do is I reverse the first length minus k. So in this case, the value of k is 3, the length is 7. So I'm reversing the first 7 minus 3 equals to 4 characters. So I'm reversing this half of the array, right? So when I reverse this, it would look something like, and now for the final step, I need to reverse the last k numbers in the array. In this case, the value of k is 3, so I reverse the last 3 numbers in the array. When I reverse them, my array would become, so you see, we have ultimately arrived at our answer. If you want to see a quick dry run of the code, this is my helper function reverse, which takes in an array, it takes in a start variable, and it takes in an end variable. So it would take in an array and reverse the entire array from the start position to the end position. As per my main method, I take 3 steps. I first reverse all the numbers. So I send in the array, I send in the starting index, and I send in the end index. So this would complete step number 1. For step number 2, I send in the same array, I send the starting index, and I send the length minus k as my end index. This would complete step number 2. And for the final result, I send in the same array and I reverse the last k numbers with this method. The time complexity of the last solution I showed you is order of n, and the space complexity is also order of n. I hope I was able to simplify the problem and its solution for you. If this solution is clear in your mind, it shouldn't be really hard to implement it. However, if you're still facing difficulties, I am including a full text-based explanation and code samples in the description below. You can also find the full solution and test cases with all the 3 methods in my GitHub repo as well. As per my departing thoughts, I want to know which method did you like the best and what other ways you can think about solving this problem. Let me know in the comment section below and I would love to discuss them with you. Once again, if you found this video helpful, please do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This motivates me to make more and more such videos where I can simplify these programming concepts for you. Until then, see ya.